another glorious day as we head from Marmaris to Selçuk, 205.6 kilometres, the last plus 200 kilometre stage of this season, I reckon. Izmir and Istanbul still to come, but Selçuk really is a pivotal point in this race. We've broken the back of the Tour of Turkey. We're over the halfway mark now as stage 4 is well and truly underway, and with just 70.5 kilometres of it remaining, we've got a break of 6. This is how we started. Our packet of polos taking off and indeed jinking and diving. There's a lot of climbing very, very early on this day. And so some tired legs and maybe some tired minds at the end of what's been a long season. Well, no rest for the wicked, because with 24 kilometres to go of the 200 and more, all of a sudden it kicks up rather nastily. One climb, then another after the Turkish beauty sprint, but the final one is an absolute killer. 9% and more, and it may well be short, but it's certainly very, very sharp, and somebody's going to end up on the spike, I'm afraid. There's our destination. Cannot wait. Just close to the final resting place of the Virgin Mary, reportedly. Beautiful little chapel and house in memoria at the finish line. This is earlier on today, and indeed signing on for duty, and all reading up about what went on yesterday. Well, what went on yesterday was that Sam Bennett won again, having won previously on 2 occasions. That man doesn't know what he's got to do to actually stop him. And Edvard Turns, I think, has run out of opportunities to get back at Sam Bennett. If they all both get over the mountains, they'll have a chance on stages 5 and 6. But the leader's jersey is likely to move on. Sam Bennett in the turquoise jersey, of course, as we continue to dwell on the slightly humbled Edvard Turns and Trek Segafredo. It's a strong team that they've got, though, with Jarostan Pantano probably the favourite for them. Here is Sam Bennett. Time to say goodbye to the turquoise jersey at the end of today, and no doubt about it, the strongest team of today, and indeed for the race, United Arab Emirates team with Diego Ulizi. They've also got other options to play. Edvard Ravazzi and indeed Darwin Atapuma could well go extremely well for them. Strong team, but we have, I've got to tell you, a strong break, despite the fact it's being pegged back just for the time being. So this was the rollout a little earlier on. Turns and Bennett about as close as they have been throughout this entire race, shoulder to shoulder, but every time head and shoulders above the rest has been Sam Bennett. So our break was to be formed early, and no surprise to see that the Turkish national team were going to send somebody up the road, and that man happens to be Mr. Samili again. He wants the beauty sprint jersey at the end of this one. That's the white jersey in this race. The pale jerseys, but with black and red accents, of the United Arab Emirates team. Good mix of athletes this, and certainly starting off today as favourites with Ulizi underscored as the big man. There are plenty of others, though, who could have a dig today, and as you can see, the skies are just starting to occasionally darken. That's a big mountain behind you, by the way, not a cloud, but nonetheless, further inland there have been some rain reported. We've not got any here today. It's hovering around 30 Celsius with very little wind. Will United Arab Emirates put the wind up everybody? Let's ask Mr. Windy himself, Brian Smith. Hello.
Thank you, Carlton. That's what we're going to have to wait and see. They've done a very good job so far in the stage. They've had a little bit of help from Bora Hansgrohe at the front of the peloton. The group of 6 have had no more than 3 minutes today, so it's been kind of pegged around about the 2-minute mark. So, as you rightly said, it's a strong enough breakaway. There's some talented riders in here, but there's a couple of teams really intent in bringing this all back together. And one being UAE, you've already mentioned. I think everybody's already talking about Ulizi as the favourite for today. They've also got another couple of riders in their ranks, Atapuma and Ravazzi. And also Bora Hansgrohe will be thinking of defending that leader's jersey. Maybe not with Sam Bennett, but definitely with the Austrian champion Mühlberger. So they've got confidence in that young man, and they want to try and deliver him as well. But yeah, the situation now is a big GC day. We're starting to head to the big mountain, the kind of mountaintop finish, or hilltop finish. It's not overly long, but as you said, 9-10% kick up in the last 4 or 5 kilometres. So it's a tough one to finish with. This is the 4th time this race has been up in recent years. Bago won in 2013, Adam Yates won in 2014, and Bilbao won in 2015. It finished in Selçuk last year, but it finished at the bottom of the climb. Modulo won that one, but this time it finishes up the climb, and we're expecting fireworks. And this is a day where, with so many Colombian riders, a Colombian rider has never actually won Tour of Turkey stage in the history of the event so far.
Well, in what? Oh gosh, we've just got the Devil mentioned here, 66.6 on the opposite end of the scale. We're heading at the end of today to the final resting place, apparently, of Mary, the Virgin Mary. Very beautiful little chapel, I've got to tell you, at the end of today. And there's, I mean, whatever your beliefs, it certainly has an atmosphere about it, I can tell you. Having visited it on a number of occasions, because we've been here in 2013, 14, 15. There was a gap last year where we didn't have this finish, but it's had so many good and dramatic endings to the day that it just had to be back in, I guess. Adam Yates won here, of course, for us most notably. I remember screaming him for his first big win. Absolutely superb it was. As you can see, there's sort of a breakdown here as to who is deserving of being up towards the front, and there are some very good riders in the break, I've got to tell you, and one of them is Danilo Celano, nearest to us here from Caja Rural. Now he's capable of delivering today, which is why they're trying to shake him out, I believe anyway. The other sort of main player for me is Androni Zydomek's Davide Ballerini, who's been in top 10 on the Pantani, the Bernocchi, and was king of the mountains in the Tirreno Adriatico, you might remember. He's up the road in that second trio that you're looking at right now. But they're all kind of wary about who is around them. This is Alberto Cecchini as well, runner-up in the points in Almaty, and yeah, he was 4th in the Tour of China, which has just recently been completed. The China 2, I think it was, and it's he that's stretching his legs right now. Just chasing on, as you can see, is Bardiani's Alessandro Tonelli. He was very good in Trentino and was king of the mountains in the Tour of Britain, I believe. So this is a quality group, or 2 pairings of 2 trios that we've got here. I'm sure they'll reassemble again. But Danilo Celano, who won the Apennino very, very recently, the 27-year-old, run-up in the Tour de Bern. There's quality here, Brian, and that's the reason why they've not been allowed to have too much leeway today. It's never been more than 2 minutes, really, has it?
Yeah, maximum was just over 3 minutes, but they've pegged it back to about 2 minutes. Celano at the back for Caja Rural is in the green. It looks as if he's been told not to ride, not to contribute. He's already won the first category climb of the day, and now virtually leads that competition. But yeah, breakdown, which is surprising with 65 kilometres to go.
We'll take a break. We'll be back as these guys surely kind of come together. It's getting a bit edgy here, and it's all about work rate. Some are doing some aren't. At the moment, Ludovic Robit is deemed to be the man who's not doing enough. Somebody's here for the beauty sprint, but the man from Androni Zydomek Bottecchia, which is David Ballerini, is bullying him at the moment. There's been a bit of bullying going on further back as well. The other trio from the original 6-man breakaway are putting pressure on Danilo Celano of Caja Rural. Now, although he's on great form, he's supposed to be working for Antonio Molina, and he's been telling his co-breakaway riders that he's not allowed to work because he's working for his teammate who's in the pack. They started kind of rubbing against him in a sort of an aggressive manner, slowing right down, and it's allowed this trio to go up the road. So unfortunately they've all stared themselves into the abyss further behind, and Danilo Celano, his team car, came up alongside and basically had a very flamboyant word with him In other words, Galme, Galme, and all that kind of stuff. And the reason is, that was to show the other riders that it wasn't his fault, that he's not allowed to work. So if you wouldn't mind, stop beating him up, emotionally, slightly physically. So that's what just went on in the break. So the Celano group is 29 seconds down on the Ballerini group. And I mentioned those two riders because of the break. I think they had the best chance. Looks like it's all dissolving. And indeed the pack are aware that they're within range, but they also know about the danger, which is why they've not been allowed off the leash. Brian, we know this wide open countryside. We've been on it many times before. We also know what a kicker there is still to come, and indeed just how beautiful it is when we get up there. The flat land here, just before we go to Brian to describe our finale, has actually got a lot of there's a river here called the Meander, and we'll be coming by a place called Nisa in a few moments time, where Mother Brown lives. But the Meander is where we get the word meander from, because it's so flat here and so gently running, it zigzags all over the place, wiggles everywhere. But we are heading for high ground, Brian, and this is where the race is going to be decided.
Yeah, very much so. This climb has decided in the past the winner of the Tour of Turkey in the past, and when we come in towards Selçuk, we don't actually go in to the town itself. In the past, we've gone into the town, done a dog leg and came back and turned right, but we come straight, and I think it's just the distance of the stage today, 204 kilometres. We come in towards Selçuk, we turn left, and then we head to the ancient city of Ephesus, and at that point the road swings left, and then it starts to rise up, and it rises up 7, 9, 10% all the way to the finishes. It's possibly only about 4.5 kilometres in length, the total climb, but it's a steep one, it's a hard one, and it has decided many in the last few years, many of the winners of the Tour of Turkey. If you can remember, a couple of years ago as well, we had some racing on these flats, and Andre Greipel was up there, and you know the race was trying to split in some of the crosswind sections because it is open to the wind. You can see just the pictures from the peloton there that there was some kind of echelons and the teams starting to look after each other. But yeah, this is a big GC day, and we've got a couple of days coming up into Izmir and Istanbul, and I think there'll be potential sprints for Mr. Bennett again.
I'm not interested in the climb, he says. I just want the beauty sprint. That's coming up, so I'm just going to get through that if you don't mind, and then I might do a bit of work for you, but don't expect me to exhaust myself. Said Samley to Ballerini. He said, come on, do a bit of work. Is it alright if I just take this next intermediate sprint because I'm after the white jersey? Is that okay? I don't know, is that alright by you? There's a whole rack of conversation going on, but this is a negotiation to allow him to take the white jersey. Then he'll be gone.
Italian,
he'll
Belgian and Turkish, common language.
English. Couldn't see the lips move though, but they were, well, I could see them move, I couldn't make out what they were actually saying. But anyway, we're just passing by, in fact we've just been by Nisa. This is where we're going to make the turn. Not famous for Mother Brown, whose knees were up, but no, there's a temple here to Dionysus. And do you know who Dionysus was?
No,
he was the god of wine. Before he moved to Paisley, obviously, and was one of your forebears, I imagine. Brian is he's an expert on the red stuff. In the restaurants, quite often he orders the wine for us. The waiter comes over and he just goes, red. But it always works. It's usually nice stuff because they don't want to upset him. 2 minutes and 24. Sometimes you don't need to be more complicated than that, especially when you're around Brian. 2 minutes and 24, he knows a bit more. And 57.6. UAE doing the policing today. They're going to get fed up with this, Brian.
Well, they've got the favourite, Diego Lazy. He's already taken some bonus seconds in the way. Right from the stage one, he was second in the one of the sprints, taking a 2-second bonus. So right from the start, he's been really interested in trying to take this overall. Unfortunately for Astana, they lost to Chernetsky with a crash, but they still have André Zeitz and Jesper Hansen to fly their flag today. But there's a lot of teams that are just kind of sitting back, allowing UE and Bora Hansgrohe to do the work at the front. Bardiani always throw up some nice surprises. So does Kaharu Al. And I think, looking at Bardiani, they've got Zardini, who was on the attack yesterday. So I think he feels good, and they could possibly be working for him today.
I think we've got some interesting ones coming up and at you. Some of those in the break, working for others. We'll discuss those and the other favourites who can take it to Ulissi today. Not these two though, by the looks of it. We're waiting on tenterhooks here to see whether our friend Samley is going to be allowed to take this beauty sprint, because they're a bit fed up with him. Go on then, rest calm yourself down. We'll tag in once you've taken it. So he's going to get his Vestel sprint by the looks of things. Don't worry, we're not going to chase after you. So he gets his intermediate Turkey Beauties sprint points. To be honest, I'm not really quite sure what was so beautiful about it, but anyway, apart from the enthusiasm of the youngsters here who've tipped out from the little college, indeed, to take this. French media, by the way. What?
We were speculating about what was going to happen here, but I think, as you said in the breakaway, if anybody can, Ferret can.
Very good. Brian's having some fun. He said if anyone can, Ferret can. And Ferret can, Samley has just taken the Beauties sprint as we come through here. He's offering up his thanks as well as we come by Nysa, the birthplace of Dionysus, the god of wine. And apparently they took the word all around ancient Greece and around the Mediterranean, and there's lots of places called Nysa. And obviously when you pour yourself a glass, you go, that's Nysa. It's kind of stuck, doesn't it? But anyway, it's back to Dionysus, and indeed Brian, you'll be pleased to know. Not much wind today. In fact, it's hardly blown at all during this event, and winter still hasn't arrived. The temperatures have been fabulous, haven't they?
Yeah, they had. It's up around 30 degrees again today in the shade, and really nice temperatures. And looking at the when it was in end of April, there seemed to be a lot more wind. At the end of the year, especially now, there's not a lot of wind, and we've seen that split the peloton in the past. But today, not a lot of wind, but we've got a couple of climbs at the end of today's stage. Only a third category climb. It's just a big long drag towards the end, but then we've got the climb up to the out of Selçuk, which is a quite a grippy one, goes up to 10%.
And we're coming through Aydın, and we're reminded of our Turkish friend Aydın, who did such great work for us.
Yeah, Aydın used to be the race organiser, race director, but the shuffling around over the last couple of years, they've got some new race director staff and a new organiser.
Yep, Berat Alfan's doing a great job as well. I've seen him looking extraordinarily serious when he pops out of the sunroof of his car. That's a good effort. I like that. Should have just put the arms a little bit further forward though. I think, lack of an elbow, but we'll give him that. 2 minutes and 22. That's a third of a double. That's the gap with 53.1 kilometres to go, and borrow somebody to come and join the fun. And you're thinking, well, who's this for? Well, it's certainly not for Leo Koenig, who looked very end of season at the beginning of this race, I'm afraid. But Gregor Mollberger, who's been doing some terrific work, the Austrian champion. You don't go climbing in Austria without, you don't become champion in Austria without doing some climbing. He's been plan B for them if Leo Koenig wasn't feeling up to it. He's not feeling up to it. So don't be surprised if Bora play a card or two today, but the best one will be Gregor Mollberger. You can be almost certain of that. Some of those who've shone in the sprints, Brian, in part of the lead out, may well be a feature today as we pass by... where was it, in the mood they were playing there? unfortunately we only had the helicopter sound there, but that's a shame. It's one of your favourite tunes, bro. Some names further down the order. Gregor Mühlberger. We're just pondering on the Austrian champion. I'm actually wondering who Astana. Jesper Hansen? What about Andrei Zeitz for them in the absence of Sergei Chernetsky?
Yeah, we've talked over the favourites for today. I think for Astana, losing Chernetsky, Hansen, Zeitz would be their riders. We already mentioned Mühlberger for Bora Hansgrohe. Pantano for Trek Segafredo to try and rescue something from finishing second and third with Edward Turns. Atapuma, Ulisse, Ravazzi, UAE have got a very, very strong team here. And looking further down the line, Gazprom, Firzinov, Wheeler, Tristina have got Martinez, Koshevoy. Zardini is an interesting one. He already showed yesterday that he's up for a fight for Bardiani, and Androni have got Gavazzi. So there's a lot of expected, but it's hard to judge how everybody else is feeling because Mühlberger has been riding for Sam Bennett. Now he's got the opportunity to ride for himself.
I think Fausto Masnada for Androni is also somebody you've got to ponder. Caja, well, Chelano I'd actually tagged as somebody to watch because he's on such great form after doing such an amazing job in Apennino. But as he was sent up the road, I was thinking, well, who are they thinking of? And it's Antonio Molina, quite clearly, for them. Edward Perez has been busy. He can go up a few lumps, but not this sort of inclines that we're going to be dealing with, and Antonio Molina can. Sergio Firzinov, we mentioned from Gazprom. If it's not going to be Martinez, the Colombian from Wilier Triestina, Yonder Godoy, the Venezuelan, is also pretty handy in terrain such as this. But it doesn't matter what you think, whether it's Zardini, Zeitz, Masnada, all of these names, it's Ulisse today, surely. And the only ones who can, I think, possibly stop him are someone like Jarosław Pantano, but he's surely exhausted. He's fatigued, I reckon. He started in January. He had a very, very, very busy Vuelta, of course, backing up Alberto Contador. So I think he's tired. Atapuma is super strong when he can be, but he's not at the moment. Hasn't really been electrifying it, and they've actually used him as well. They've lent him a bit for Kump and Consoni and Zerlo in the sprints. He'll be there, but that's all about Ulisse for UAE. Maybe with Edward Ravazzi as an option to send up the road as well. He can also take on inclines, quite punchy. But Ulisse is so strong, Brian. He's one of these guys who is very explosive. And as soon as you looked at the profile of this race and you saw that Selçuk was in, it had to be him.
Looking at it from the start, he's the rider from UAE that's tried to take some bonus seconds. I wouldn't say he is the best climber in the race, but certainly he's explosive enough. And this really depends on how hard they race up this final climb, because from the past we've seen some kind of explosive riders up there in the end, and Thomas de Gent has been up there in a top placing, top 6 placing in the past in this type of stage. So strong, punchy rider, but out and out climbers, yeah, if there's a good possibility here. It really depends on how fast they run in now, and now we've got a change, and this is what we were talking about a little bit earlier. You know, why was the breakdown? Well, they wanted to make this stage a little bit harder, and I think Bardiani are the team that really wants to do something here, and they've got you know, a few riders that could possibly win today, and one being Zardini. If you can remember the Tour of Britain a few years ago up the Tumbo, he won the stage, took the yellow jersey in that race, and you know, he was on the attack yesterday, looked quite strong. So we'll have to kind of wait and see, but a few teams starting to play the cards now.
Yes, and Bardiani for Zardini looking very busy. They've also got Enrico Barbin, who can turn it around occasionally. He's also up towards the pointy end. So it looks like time running out for our trio of breakaway riders right now. Welcome back. Wide open, as you can see, beautiful vistas just over there towards your right, and that's where we're going to be making the turn, and we're heading to the high ground. The high ground is spiteful. It's going to take a little nibble out of the ambitions, I'm afraid, of many today. How close Ulithi is to everybody else by the end of the day remains to be seen. Now we're just going to take a few moments as our entire Eurosport family is reassembled. So not quite enough time for Brian to go into Danny Boy, but he is known to do that when we have a longer break. So we'll see if we can tempt him deeper into this race. Steady pace, but steadily winding in those out front. And indeed, it's picked up the tempo. It's now just 90 seconds separating the ambitious from those with a real chance of delivering today. The biggest chance has got to be for Diego Ulithi for UAE Team Emirates, and indeed they've got some help at the moment. Other hands have come to the pumps, and right now we have William Triestina with Daniel Martinez, Yonder Godoy as well, with ambitions, the men in the blood gold and coal coloured jerseys. They had Alberto Cecchin up the road, but it's about them, and that is one of the many villa ruins that we have around here, and more than that, Ephesus. You need to go and see it. It is unbelievably stunning. This is just one of so many Greek and Roman settlements, many of which still stand, albeit rather crumbled over time. No stone will be left upon another. Well, it's been many thousands of years, and many of the great buildings still indeed do remain for our edification and entertainment. We have our solar flare incident, which we're expecting today, which has just happened, which has taken us away from the spectacular, I'm afraid. But I can tell you that we'll be heading back there in a few moments' time. So heat as well is an issue. Around about 30 Celsius. I'm not sure quite what we dialed in today, or our host broadcasters, but nonetheless we've got a little bit of picture breakdown, and thank heaven. We've also got plenty of other nice scenes to show you. This looks like Holiday Festival. This is from yesterday by the looks of things, and our finish line back in Marmaris, one of our favoured places as well. So Brian, while we're waiting for our pictures to be restitched back together, do you see a surprise today as a possibility?
I wouldn't say a big surprise. We've already mentioned quite a few riders. You know, Bardiani have now taken it up in the front. Wheelia are interested now. Both Bardiani and Wheelia were involved with the original six-man breakaway, but the breakaway, apart from three riders, Samli from Turkey, Robit of Veron Classic, and Ballerini of Androni, they're still kind of hanging out there. But I think it was the fact that Solano for Kaharuao was told stop working. It wasn't a good break for them. They have to concentrate, and you know, a couple other riders that these riders came back to the peloton, and the peloton now all in one line. We did have a UAE at the front with Bora Hansgrohe, but now it's all about the boys in green riding at the front for Bardiani, and really upping the tempo, wanting this stage to be a little bit more difficult, to kind of shake up the peloton, to make it a little bit more harder. And we've got a third category climb that comes at tops with 14.5 kilometres to go, and then we start heading rapidly to the final climb of the day. This is the big GC day. This man here is the King of the Mountains at the start of the day, but the rider from Kaharuao took it off his shoulders during the stage, and that's Solano. Took the 10 points, and this is the reason why Bardiani have come to the front. They want to bring this breakaway back. The reason why they want to bring this back is they want Maestri to take that jersey back, courtesy of this third category climb. It's 3, 2 and 1 points, and obviously Maestri went into this stage with the King of the Mountains jersey on his back, lost it during the stage, and he had 9 points. Solano has got 10 points. There's 3, 2 and 1 up for grabs in the third category climb. And the reason why Bardiani have come to the front now is they want to bring these three riders back and allow Maestri to sprint for that third category climb before the finishing climb, because they reckon it'll give him the chance of keeping a hold of that jersey today.
I think it's right.
What do you mean you think it's right?
I think their thoughts, and indeed you are right. Izmir tomorrow, last climbing day. That expect to see Maestri up and towards the 4 in the break early on. Keller-Royce climbs at the top and the tail, and then when we get to Istanbul, the competition should already be sorted. It's tight, isn't it? 6 days. Used to be longer. We also used to have a climb up Amali. Now that that's not part of it, we're trimmed back to 6. It puts extra emphasis upon this Selçuk destination as our pivotal point for the race. There's no making amends if you get it wrong today.
But if you remember, further back than that, it pretty much stayed on the coast, the race, and it was a lot of sprint stages, and then they started over the last few years introducing a climb to the race, because it was mostly just the sprinters that would come here. There's no really GC riders, and the climb of Gogo Belly.
This one was only 2013. That was the first time this was put in. Yeah,
2013. But they also had the climb up to El Mali, the climb of Gogo Belly, and they've put that in for a few years. But
I thought that was just what people shouted after me.
Yes, Gogo Belly. But it was a nice climb. It was a really hard climb. But before that, before they introduced any climbs, it was
do that for you.
Traditionally just from holiday resort to holiday resort, and to obviously showcase Turkey, the best parts of Turkey, although there's many other good parts of Turkey, as we've already seen. When you go up to El Mali, I think the first time we went up there, the snow was up there at the top. You go away from the coast.
Snowball fight, didn't we?
Yeah, we go away from the coast, which was perfect, and then you go inland, and then we stop for tea at the bottom in one of the villages, and it was just so tranquil. And remember, we went up there and we got the local kind of flatbread with the meat. I forget what it was called.
I remember the ladies,
the locals,
with a hot stone. And they put out of this hot stone. I'd stopped at the bottom of the climb for a flower tea. It was absolutely spectacular. And when we got up there was a massive queue. There was catering, VIP catering, and nobody was interested because these ladies had turned up. And they produced this dough, and they got this hot stone going on the embers of a fire. It took a long time for the stone to heat through, and then they created what can only be described as these falafel wraps. And they were just absolutely gorgeous, and everybody was interested. And all the VIP area was empty. Everyone was just queuing up for a wrap from one of these ladies. Brilliant. 42.2 kilometres with 26 seconds only. It's been a feisty chase today. It's been extraordinarily different to the last couple of days, where Stage 2 really was one for the specialists, I think. Hardcore fans, you can count it out as exactly that if you sat through Stage 2, 206 kilometres of basically flat before a sprint. I know it was a bit lumpy at the beginning, but today it's lumpy all over the place. All right, we're on a highway at the moment, but a heavenly destination for somebody, with the Virgin Mary's final resting place, where our destination is. I wonder whether that's why it took so long for us actually to get to climb that hill past Ephesus, the ancient city, which you'll see. We'll probably send a helicopter. What they usually do, the most spectacular picture that you can imagine, is when they send the helicopter down the high street. That is, how many thousand years old was it? Is it a couple of centuries BC? Absolutely remarkable. So they'll sail down that. In fact, 334 BC, so 3 centuries indeed. So yeah, spectacular. You'll see it, and it's one scene never forgotten, Brian. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It kind of blows you away when you see it. It's nice seeing the pictures and things like that, but when you're actually there and you see the size of the stones they moved around and created the
beer,
the library, and I think isn't it 100,000 in the amphitheatre? Massive.
I don't know. It's a lot. And the library. That was the thing that impressed me most. Was you walk down this street and you go through this huge triumphal arch into what was marble shelved library, and it's all still there. You can sort of sit down and sort of ponder just how insignificant you know, each one of us is really, but the great things that collectively we can do together, and it has been the same for millennia. It's remarkable. Anyway, today it's about the collective endeavour of this lot, and Wilier Triestina have decided to come and join the fun. They're helping out Bardiani at the moment, and they've just about achieved their task of winding in these guys. Only 22 seconds. It's going to be handshakes in a few moments' time. Big smile from Sam Lee. He's the only one that's got anything out of today. Pat on the back there as well, probably a bit too hard there by Ludovic Robit, who was a big lad, and he just smacked on the back there David Ballerini, who was still adjusting his shoulder blade after that. But yeah, I think Ballerini had the biggest hopes of all, there he is nearest to us, of all of the breakaway riders, but just too much at stake with this stage, Brian, and they weren't allowed.
Well, it was a good breakaway, the biggest breakaway of the race so far. 6 riders went away. Ballerini was one of them. Ballerini had started the year, won the King of the Mountains in Tirreno Adriatico, so a strong rider, wanting to try and foil everybody else. Strong breakaway, trying to stay away, but unfortunately UAE and Bora Hansgrohe were riding at the front, keeping the time gap around about 2 minutes, and then we had a breakdown in the breakaway, and 3 riders just came back, and that changed the whole play. They changed everything, the dynamics of the race, and now Bardiani came up, and I've almost brought this back with Wilier Triestina now getting involved at the front of the peloton. So with under 40 kilometres to go, the race is all back together.
All together, says Race Radio. Yeah, David Ballerini acknowledged as being the strongest of the break, and hence the pats upon the back, however light or hard they turned out to be. So here comes through the pack, led by Bardiani, and Androni not that far behind. They'll have potentially other options today. I think Masnada is the man. He was been very strong in the Italian Classics of late, so I think he's got a chance. What about Daniel Martinez, the Colombian? He's off to Cannondale next year. He crashed in Lombardia, so I was wondering how he'd bounced, to be honest. He was 9th in the Tre Valle, 7th in Milan Torino. If it hadn't been for the crash, I'd be talking about him a little bit more. They've got Yonder Godoy of Wilier, but maybe Martinez is feeling good. They're certainly doing a lot of work.
The thing is, you never know, because we've not seen them going up any major obstacles just yet. All the GC riders have been held back to this stage and this finish, so we've not seen them. All we've seen is the sprinters teams, and you know, so far Sam Bennett has been absolutely on song with 3 in a row. But they've got another job to do. They've got to look after the Austrian champion, Gregory Mühlberger. They believe that you know, he could finish things off today. But just when you're starting to think of who's going to take control of the race, well, Martinez, have you said, he's on some form. If he's recovered, and it looks as if he's a big danger today. And Wilier Triestina at the front now with all of their team, adding a lot of faith into the rider from Colombia. And
it's not over for Bora Hansgrohe either. You see the aquamarine coloured helmets here. You see the white jersey just popping out from or in and out of the right hand side of your screen as it was. Yes, that's the Austrian champion, Gregor Mühlberger. Leo Koenig, I was quite disappointed with him at the top of the race, because off he went, setting the pace in a chase down of a breakaway on stage 1, then peeled off. I think he finished about 5.5 minutes down. The only advantage he took was that there was a crash, so his deficit got neutralised, but that was him saying, listen, it's not my race. If you think I'm a favourite, think again. It's been a long season, I've had enough.
I think of, on paper, definitely Leopold Koenig, what he's done in the past, finishing up there in the top 10 in Tour de France, you know, stage wins in Grand Tour. He's very capable of winning a race like this, but he's been
busy.
He's had major problems with a knee injury, reoccurring all the time, and he's here to get the miles in. Many riders are here for various different reasons. We've talked about this in the past. And Leopold Koenig is here to try and get some racing miles in, because he's missed a lot this year. He's not ridden a Grand Tour, so he's riding here, and he'll ride on the front. Good training for him, and then he'll go to China to ride the final race of the year. So he will ride all the races towards the end of the year, and just possibly keep training into next year to hopefully have a better year. But it's that niggling knee injury has been the dog with through his career.
Trek Segafredo, you might have seen the Jarlsson Pantano. He actually started his work this year in January, so he's had a very, very long season as well. So I wonder if he's tuckered out too. Just over 36 kilometres to go, and well, if there's any doubt as to whether Wilier Triestina are going to have a dig today, put that to one side. They're going to have a dig today. CCC's Brandy are going to have a look as well. I'm not quite sure who they're going to go for today. Tacek? Don't know. Kosh, possibly. He's a fast man who can climb, but he's been busy over the last couple of days. Yesterday was 9th in the sprint, so possibly not. There's Sam Bennett, our glorious leader, in a short while. We'll be rejoining our wider Eurosport family. The turquoise jersey is there. In fact, the camera was just distracted there by an Astana rider. It does look pretty similar, doesn't it, the jersey? You've got to admit.
Yeah, but you can always tell an Irishman with his white legs.
That's true. Sort of a bluey white. As Astana sail by, think of that colour and then look to the other side of the road, and you'll see Sam Bennett. And if you want to underscore the fact that that is indeed the leader, then just look at his white legs, and you realise that, yeah, he's got Gallic skin, as both Brian. Actually, you haven't. I have. You call yourself a Scot? You're too brown, mate. I have a bluey whiteness, which goes bright red in the summertime, so I generally keep covered up. Brian, of course, just Mr. Sunbathe. You find him on the roof of any hotel we're staying with in here in Turkey, taking in the rays. We've dealt with the flatlands just about, and in fact we will be climbing soon, Brian. So let's describe the inclines. First one is more of a drag than the second and final, and in fact there's a couple of phases to the climb that we're going to take on in about 11 kilometres time. We'll start picking up. It's a drag, and then into a little saucer, a descent, and then with 5.4 kilometres to go, we really get hit hard by some punishing inclines, the worst of which are at the very end, Brian.
They definitely are, and you know, the top of the third category climb is 14.5 kilometres to go, so there's about 20 kilometres until we start to hit that point. It's just a drag, a main road drag. Some of the profiles have got in the road book, it makes it look a little bit more severe, but having driven over this course, it's a long drag up, and there's quite a fast descent, and it's quite a fast run in towards Selçuk, where they turn left, head towards the ancient city of Ephesus, swing left again, and then start the incline. It's only kind of short, about just over 4 kilometres, but it's fast, it's steep, it suits the climbers obviously, and suits the kind of punchy riders as well. So it's going to be a really interesting one. But just as everybody thought, the breakaway in a way, 6 riders, it's now been brought back. The dynamics of the race have all changed. It's all back together again. Wilier Triestina has taken it on. They want to keep it together for their man, and yeah, it's going to be a real interesting one. I can't really see any major attacks over the next 20 kilometres until we hit this third category climb. The only action I can see is from Mikko Maestri, who unfortunately lost his King of the Mountains jersey on the road to Celano of the Kaharu Ao team. Celano won the first category climb earlier on today, took the 10 points. Maestri was on 9 points, so there is a 3, 2 and 1 in this third category climb, the second climb of the day, and I think Maestri wants to try and keep a hold of that jersey, and that's why Bardiani came up and rode the breakaway down. Now Wilier Triestina, the Italian second division team, is just keeping a tempo. They don't want anybody to go away, and for a lot of teams this is good, because they think this is an opportunity now that they can just sit in the wheels now and prepare themselves for these final climbs.
Poor old Chicken here. He was in the break earlier on today, and he's expected to balance and put this lot down his jersey and hand them on, and he's struggling at the moment. Maybe it's the road surface, but I think it's just probably fatigue. He's now got to decide how to hand these bottles out. Who's going to get one from the sweaty belly? Who's going to get one from between the shoulder blades? The underarm ones are really unpopular, but the ones he puts in his back pocket and in the cages, they're the prime ones. You probably keep the cages ones, and then but yeah, when you get one of those that's come from the back or the front, give it a quick squeeze, clean the nozzle, and it won't taste quite so salty. Top tip, especially if Brian has you on. He doesn't have sweat up. Here we are, bottle. Where'd it come from? Oh. He's handing out belly. Well, he's gone for back bottles now. The belly bottles are the worst because the sweat generally tends to run down. But anyway, belly bottle, not interested. Do you want one? Oh. All right then. 24 k's out is where the ramps begin on our approach, Brian. We peak out with 14 to go for our first climb today, so we're nearly climbing.
Yeah, but it's very gradual in the state of things.
It's like a little story, and you can send them all away to make cake if you want, or indeed, you can build a bit of drama, right?
Yeah, it's just very slowly climbing. Anything that goes up, what, a metre at a time is climbing to you, Carlton, but yeah, it's very slow climbing. It's just a drag up the main road. The riders won't think too much about it. There will be some action for the King of the Mountains points, but the big focus today is the final climb of the day. It's a spectacular climb. As you rightly said, there's so much ancient history round about this climb. It's been in for a few years now. They missed out last year. They just finished with a sprint finish in Selçuk, but Bilbao won in 2015. Adam Yates won in 2014, and Bago won in 2013.
So who's going to win today? Well, Lissi, we reckon. But this man has brought a lot of attention to himself. He's a bit of a superstar in the Turkish media. In fact, they're talking about him in very, very glowing terms. Sam Bennett, of course, the Irishman, just hiding behind the mullet of the bullet. It's Shane Archbold. I know there's no I in the middle of Archbold, but the way I say arch and bold, it sounds like there's an I in the middle, but it's just Archbold. It's not Archibald. There, that was the difference, so try and spot it. I've been saying Shane Archbold, see, for much of the race. Brian keeps saying, no, you said Archibald. I didn't. Anyway, that's just our private little argument. These guys settled at the task at hand, and it's Willia Triestina who are prepared to take this on. This is a favour they're doing, to my mind, to UAE.
Well, I just think that you know, it's just confidence building when a team is put to the front. UAE and Bora were quite content in riding. They would have ridden the breakaway down, but 6 riders in front, and it was Solano that decided not to ride. And I just thought it might have been a bit of a strange one, and I think it's going to come back to bite them in the end, whether Solano was feeling good today. And Solano climbs well enough. They could be thinking, well, we're going to save you for later on, but as we said, it could come back and bite him, because he's the virtual leader of the King of the Mountains in the roads, and Maestre, I think, will be strong enough to take this third category climb. And if neither of them finish in the top 5 at the finishing line today, then Maestre will take back that jersey. So it's an interesting one between Caharual and Bardiani, but I think for now, Willia Triestina just sitting at the front of the main peloton is just putting pressure on their riders to perform today, and that's pretty much all it is.
Well, it's now or never if you're bidding for the title, or indeed your position within the top 10. And it looks like UAE have decided that they're going to have to come and do something here about the pace today. They don't want to get left behind, caught out. They're strong enough not to do any of those things. Darwin Atapuma, Edward Rovazzi, but Diego Ulizzi, that's a strong lineup. And they're just moving up on the inside here of CCC Sprandi Polkovici to assume duty behind Bora Hansgrohe. They certainly don't want the jersey to be handed from Sam Bennett to Gregor Muhlberger. the Austrian champion. That would keep it within Bora Hansgrohe. And so UAE being cagey, and indeed so are we. I think we may well be taking ourselves another break before we head for the hills proper. They'll come into town here and then take on the drag that Brian's been describing so effectively for you. Then we'll have that descent, which he's also a bit peaky about, before we finally climb at the end of today with gradients of 9 and 10%. So let's squeeze in that break. Brian's just going to go out and get the nut seller has come, by the way. Got macadamias today. Looking forward to it. Welcome back. Well, there's lines of power being displayed here, and not just the electricity lines, of course. I've noticed they've got some golden balls attached to the high wires, so that the helicopters, they have warning systems on board, electronic as well, so they don't fly into those wires these days. But yeah, there's a visual as well. Just in case you're wondering what the large golden balls were flying in the air, it's an anti-helicopter device. Nothing more embarrassing than that. So here is Villa Triestina. There is the Brazilian team as well, the Sol Brazil Pro Cycling team. Looks quite funky. And just sailing into view, CCC Sprally, and of course UAE that we're concerned about. Time to cool down, and it's the Turkish local riders that generally tend to take more of the splash rather than the dash. This is Batuhan Özgür, and he's had 2 bottles, both of which have been tipped over him. I suspect he wants some more. One of the things you can do here, Brian, while we've got a moment, is experience a Turkish spa, and indeed the sheer beating that you get is something to behold. Now, Brian was brave enough to go first. He went in 2012, and he got a massive headache after it because it released so many toxins from his body, and he's a bit of a toxic bloke, as I'm sure you can guess.
It was a marble table.
It was marble table. He was slabbed, which means he was thrown about this thing. Basically, there was elbows and knees and everything going in all over the place. There was oils, eucalyptus, and various others. They had this volcanic gravel as well, which they exfoliate you with. Then he was beaten and thrown into an ice cold pool of water.
That was just by you.
Then we let him go to the spa.
I knew where you were going.
He got himself into a hammam, and then basically, yeah, exactly, cold shower, freshened up, and stuck in a woolly gown, and then sat in a chair where he just started crying. I said, "What's up, Brian?" He said, "I'm really happy." Anyway,
it must be good for you.
It must be good for you somehow. So anyway, last year I decided to do the same, and sorry, a year before, and gosh, I'll tell you what, once experienced, never forgotten. We were given some what looked like netting underpants to sort of keep our modesty. They didn't hide much, to be honest. And yeah, so variously we were steamed, pummeled, gravelled, oiled, massaged, plunged, and then hammammed, and then released. It was fantastic.
I know, I've been for a couple since. When I go, every time I go to Turkey, I have one. So it's absolutely.
One's enough a week, isn't it? You don't want to be doing this every.
Supposed to have one at start the first day you get on holiday. You're supposed to have one. It exfoliates your skin. It prepares your skin for the sun.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you have one when you're fully red, sunburnt.
Yeah, and
which is not so pleasant.
when you're going home, so that you sit on the flight home with a goofy smile on your face. Anyway, worth doing. For those of you listening on Twitter, it is actually a cycling race. Pantano, what about him today? It's been such a busy season for Jarlsson. I kind of feel a bit sorry for him, really. He was called on to do so much during the Vuelta. Started in January, I mentioned it earlier on today. What's he got left?
Well, we're going to have to see, but I think he's going to be a bit of pressure on him because looking at the team, they've put a lot of work in for Edward Towns over the first 3 stages, and will he get the same work? It's going to be very difficult for him. He might have to find his own way, and with so many Colombians and so many possibilities here, we've never had a Colombian stage win in the history of the Tour of Turkey. Very possible it could change things this year.
Well, I've probably said the same about Team GB before Adam Yates did his thing. Absolutely stellar performance it was a couple of years ago on this very climb. In fact, it was his first major, I think. 26.2. This is a race that's been elevated to World Tour status this year, and we're glad of that. Unfortunately, it's been bamboozled around the calendar, but it's found itself, I think, almost by accident in this part of the season, coming after Lombardia, after the Worlds. But I think it's got a chance of establishing itself at this part of the year and drawing some of the big names back that have been AMST at this time, mainly because the calendar was so changeable. But if it installs itself here, Brian, you're going to get riders wanting to come. Last chance saloon for some of those. Some of the world's greatest sprinters. This is the Apollonius of Tralles in Caria, and having a great career as a sculptor was indeed Tralles from the 2nd century BC. He basically pulled off the largest sculptures in antiquity at the time. And he created a marble bull called the Farnese Bull, which was representing Zethus and Amphion. There we are. I don't know what happened to it. It's disappeared. Where's the bull? I think it's buried somewhere.
There were actually, it was some sort of a dance or something like that we're doing as well in the circle.
Really? Did you recognise it? Was it the Lambada?
No. I only got to know the Gay Gordons and the military two-step and things like that at school.
We'll move on. 25 kilometres from home, those Gordons, eh? It's a headwind. You brought it up. It's a headwind we've got just for the time being, which has knocked back the pace, and everyone's basically together at the moment. All just struggling on this nasty little ramp. It's a gentle increase, as Brian keeps banging on about. Once we get to the Category 3 climb, we go down a little descent, kick up the other side, so we're into a bowl and out of it, and then we've got a reasonably feisty descent that brings us to our big climb today to finish. Well, it's gorgeous, but you wouldn't want to take on deep into a race like this and so deep into the season our second 200 plus kilometres stage of the race. It's a long one, but they've dealt with it rather well today. We're ahead of schedule, Brian. It wasn't like stage 2 to Fethiye, which took an age. This one's toddled along quite nicely.
Yeah, I think it's because of the breakaways brought back a little bit early, and we still have a predominantly headwind. You can just see the flags at the side of the road, so it is blowing a little bit. The average pace is down at 38 kilometres an hour. On the stage into Fethiye, it was down at 33 kilometres an hour, so the pace is not high. That's going to kind of nullify a lot of attacks as well, with the wind blowing in the riders' faces. But the Brazil team have come to the front with Wheeler, and as long as we have different teams that are willing to come to the front and set a pace, then this stage is going to bowl along. We're into the last 25 kilometres. It does slowly start to kind of drag up a little bit. We're expecting a sprint for the third category climb, because there's only 1 point between Maestre and Solano. So it's going to be enticing on that third category climb. Very quick descent all the way towards Selçuk, and then up that hill. Before you know, we'll be on it. And this is the time where the sports directors behind just has to kind of focus the riders, and this is why we're seeing UAE, who have set the tempo pretty much most of the day, are starting to come up now in the red helmets towards the front, just trying to keep Ulissi and Ravasi and Atapuma out of trouble.
We're getting there, Brian, and this final test, how long do you think it's going to take them to get up 3 kilometres, averaging 9.5, 9.75%? It's a proper drag, isn't it, when we get there?
Yeah, it's going to be, for some, I think it's a little bit longer than that. It definitely is probably just over a 10-minute climb.
Yep.
You probably 8, but you know, for most of these super fit guys, it'll be about just over 10-minute climb.
Thanks, mate. Put me in a high bracket there. 23.4. There it is. As you can see, we're sort of meandering at the moment, but the high ground beckons. At long last, some might say. Tomorrow, in our run to Izmir, we've got more of a puncher's day. Do you think we might finally get a breakaway? If the jersey is set on the back of Ulissi, it may well be that there's some real opportunities for some adventurers tomorrow, I think, Brian, to take on the run to Izmir, which has a peaky start and a peaky end, albeit with a long downhill to a flat finish.
The thing is, Sam Bennett has won 3 stages in a row, and if it goes the way the other stages have gone, then Bora Hansgrohe, if they control things, then there'll be a sprint finish and Sam could win again. But I think tomorrow could be definitely a day of the breakaway. I think after today's stage, there's a lot of riders that will get to the bottom of this climb. It's been a relatively easy day for many of these riders to get to the bottom of the climb. Job done, let the climbers, GC guys go, save their legs a little bit and try and get in the breakaway. We might see a larger breakaway tomorrow, and many of the riders, if they've already lost between, I don't know, 6 and 10 minutes, then they might be allowed to go and battle out, because I can't really see the likes of Bora Hansgrohe wanting to control things all day. They've had a successful race so far, a hard race, 166 kilometres tomorrow. I don't think they'll get many help if they want to bring it back for a sprint. So I think, it's going to be a bit more aggressive in the morning. Maybe a stronger breakaway goes away, or we might have a counter-attack in the final climb. But either way, it's going to be interesting, because we've seen it happen before when Mark Cavendish was actually dropped in one of the climbs outside Izmir, and his team bought him back on, and he ended up winning the stage. So it's each to their own. If you want to win a stage here, then you're going to have to work for it, and you don't want to bring Sam Bennett to the finishing line, because Izmir, it's a perfect finishing line for Sam Bennett to try and win his 4th.
Indeed. So he's got 30-second advantage because of 3 times 10 seconds bonus, which you get at the for winning a stage. If you go Izmir 10 seconds and Istanbul 10 seconds, assuming that Sam Bennett has got a great chance of winning both of those, I think he probably has. If the breakaway tomorrow is not effective, then he's got a terrific chance of doing so. Can he finish within 50 seconds of today's winner up this incline? Let's wait and see, shall we? I don't think so. When we ran to Marmaris, he said he was absolutely clinging on to get over the climb, and that was more of a draggy climb than we've got today, Brian. This is far more focused.
Yeah, it's, I think he will lose more than 50 seconds, and I think there's no point really in asking Sam to really dig deep. His job will be done at the bottom of the climb, because there's potential over the next 2 days for him to win other stages, and you don't really want to dig deep. We've seen riders try to do that in the past, but I think it'll be all in for Gregory Mühlberger to do.
So do I. Mühlberger can cope with it, and indeed he'll be guiding Sam Bennett over the next couple of stages tomorrow, if he's got a chance, if the breakaway hasn't succeeded, and certainly in Istanbul for the grand finale after 6 stages of this World Tour event. Big points on offer for those who've made the trip as well, and that all stacks up at the end of the year in the UCI rankings, so they've made a good effort of it. This is another of the ruins. This is the Magnesia ruins, not as magnificent as they used to be. I'm not saying that's where we got the word from, but I'd like to think we had. What I was hoping to see was the Kamlik Railway Museum, to be honest. Not that I'm bored of this sort of thing. It's absolutely spectacular. In fact, it was on one of these that the Jason and the Argonauts skeleton scenes were filmed. They did some here and some in Syria. Basically, it depended on the light, and indeed what little alleyways there were there. But for those of you old enough, go and look up Jason and the Argonauts on YouTube or another of those video channels, and have a look at the skeleton fight from Jason and the Argonauts. It was actually all done with models, and then they actually had to animate on or cut on the actors. So it was quite something for the 1950s, I think, when it was made. Probably just nudging into the early 60s. You ever see it? On your school holidays, it was always playing.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's probably always out playing football, riding a
Yeah,
bike.
you're probably right. You're right. Yeah. You know, I think donuts and telly are highly, overlooked really in sporting prowess terms. 20.6 kilometres from home, and they're looking at each other. The elbows are flicking out here. It's about work rate. Interesting to see Atapuma looking reasonably lively and just coming up, just starting to eat into a little void there. I think he's going to be lent on today, Atapuma, but you never know. It may well just be him. Be a great rider to send up the road as a foil for Diego Ulissi late on. We might have some late attacks here after this next climb. This is getting fascinating, Brian. We're locked together. There's a lot of talent here, and it's all going to be called to duty fairly soon.
Yes, it's still got that nagging kind of headwind. A lot of riders starting to set themselves up. The leaders have been brought towards the front of the peloton. And yeah, the nerves starting to build, because there's a lot expected. This is the big general classification day. If you do well today, then you're going to get a good placing at the end of the race when it finishes in a couple of days' time.
Here we go. Nice pace out front. In fact, it's being marked just for now. This is a little downhill run that will. There's a couple of little steps on this drag, as Brian's describing it as. Once we get there. And in fact, we're about 5 k's, a little bit more than that, away from our categorised climb. This is not the one that really counts. That's at the very end of today. And UAE and Gazprom at the moment are starting to muster. And here comes Gazprom. This will be for Nikolai Trusev. I beg your pardon, for Sergei Fursunov. Questions about his form. He was terrific back in 2016, was Fursunov. I haven't really spoken about him. I can't remember mentioning his name this season.
No, he's very capable of delivering a very good result today. It is all about form. A lot of these riders have not really been tested. We had a bit of a climb yesterday, and it was Zardini from Bardiani that looked quite strong, but everybody else has been just sitting and waiting for this day. So that there's a lot of pressure heaped on a lot of these riders to deliver a performance, and obviously Willia Tristina feeling good and putting a little bit of pressure on their man to deliver a result.
You saw a few moments ago that we had a problem for Masnada. He's trying to get himself back in. For Androni, in fact I'm wondering whether it was on one of our sub-monitors, but anyway, yeah, he has been very strong in the Italian Classics, which have ended the year, so Androni may have an option. You can just see them in the red at the back of Willia here next to the Brazilians, with the Brazilian flag upon their helmet and kit. That's UAE with the red helmets and the black and white, with Astana starting to suggest that they may well be interested in today. Andrei Zeitz was runner-up in the Tour of Turkey way back in 2011. Did you know that?
Yes.
That was the year before we came on our first visit as the guests of the race. Jesper Hansen had a good run in Norway. He went out early from the Vuelta. I'm just wondering whether Jesper Hansen's back to his best. There's a few question marks here. Some who are almost testing themselves, I think it's fair to say. Not quite sure. I think, that Samley here, he went back and just like Osgur, he doused himself, and he's just been back to for the doctors to have a look at his neck. I wonder if he's had a sting.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. I think he was getting some ice by the looks of it, put into one of the rubber gloves he was wanting, or he was just getting a hug.
To be honest, I think he was. I think he may well have got an insect sting. Not quite sure. You don't get much of that, certainly about this part of the season. It's not something you have to be overly concerned about in Turkey. But I think he may well have got himself something. 18 points, maybe just wanted a lift. Sometimes you can. It has been known for you to go back and say, look, insect sting, and they go, where? Well, it was there. And you get, I don't know, 50 or 60 metres of hanging onto the medical car. That's always a freebie worth having. Don't tell anyone I told you. Willia still working. I don't know what they're badging themselves up for. Potential glory, you might say. They have got one of the day's favourites with Martinez, but are they doing too much too soon, Brian? That's a question. It's one we ask regularly.
Well, it's what you've been told to do by your sports director, and you know, they're keeping Martinez towards the front and out of trouble, and that's the thing you want. And also by riding on the front, it puts a little bit of pressure on him to deliver, because everybody, you know, wins, goes to talk to the press afterwards, and they all say, you know, thanks to the effort of the team. So for the team of Willie Triestina to put his team on the front, it does put a lot of pressure on his rider to perform, and sometimes you want to put that pressure on a rider, sometimes you don't. And obviously he knows Martinez better than us, so the sports director wants to kind of heap the pressure on the shoulders of Martinez.
Pace, that's what we want, and UAE are prepared to set it. They've got the strongest team. Oh, look at that. Team Brazil getting harangued here because they moved over, trying to do a blocking move on UAE. Here's Atapuma. Now he's picking up a little bit of pace. He's in about 10th place at the moment. I would have said he was the most likely to head off and up the road. But this is about being a strong team and making sure that those who are weaker than you have to do a lot of work at a moment like this.
Yes, you can just see the red jersey of Maestri, the King of the Mountains, is up there in 3rd place, and just coming up to join him is Solano of Caja Rural with the green and the green helmet on. So obviously they are the riders that are separated only by 1 point in the King of the Mountains competition.
So this is time for them to do their duty, but 17 kilometres to go from home. The top of this climb comes at when that ticker says 14, and I think Solano looks like he's actually suffering at the moment. Well, rocking and rolling, Danilo Solano, the Italian, just having a look at UAE, almost begging to join their train. He's just drifting backwards at the moment. Maestri's men putting in a proper turn. UAE happy to join this fun right now. In fact, they're putting the hurt on everyone. I'm just looking to see where Daniel Martinez is, and in fact, Willie Triestina basically just disappeared after doing all that work on the approach. We were asking as to whether they'd done too much, and it certainly looks like that right now. They are not in the top 20, having mobbed the front for so long, and this is the pace that UAE can set, and it's hard to match.
Yeah, UAE feeling good in the red helmets at the front, and purely because they've got one of the favourites, Ulisse. They've also got a couple other riders that can do some damage on this final climb, and obviously thought the tempo wasn't high enough. They're going to use this 3rd category climb just to try and soften the legs up. A lot of riders prefer it to be a little bit more difficult, and I think Ulisse riding at World Tour level, especially over a distance of 204 kilometres in length, he's probably used to that distance more than many of the other riders, so he wants to make it as difficult as possible for everybody else that seems to think, oh, I'm feeling good, everything's okay, go to the last climb. So UAE have decided to up the tempo to make it a little bit more difficult for many.
Alarm bells going off all over the place. Rafael Pires was the first to go from Sol Brazil, been up the front for much of the day, and just look, try and find those gold and scarlet jerseys of Villiers, and they're in real trouble. Sam Bennett's just starting to struggle as well. You can see he keeps hoving into view on the right hand side of your screen. And there is the turquoise jersey peddling squares at the moment. He's doing a decent job of hanging in here, but here's the man who holds the King of the Mountains jersey, who wants to make sure he has it by the end of the day, and there's going to be no stopping him. That is a big push by Mirko Maestri, and let there be no doubt who's the boss of this competition. His teammate's going to try and grab the minor points as well, just to stop Solano getting close to him. And this will be another sub-attack. Is he going to get in there? Just finishes in 2nd place, so 3 and 2. They're even Stevens, these two.
Yes, and that'll go down to the count back, and the count back. There's only been one 1st category climb in this race. And I reckon by finishing 2nd, Solano on the left-hand side, he has won a 1st category climb in this race, and I think that jersey will be on his back tomorrow.
Well, there you are. So, equal on points, even Stevens, as we mentioned, and so it goes to count back. We'll see whether it's positional or within the competition. I believe Brian's right. It's the highest category climb advantage here. 15.3 kilometres from home. This is that little diplet Is that a word? They'll go into it and kick back out the other side of this. It's almost an egg cup they're going into in terms of the scale of 204 kilometres and more that we're dealing with today. Oh, what a time to get a technical. Paluta with a puncture, I'm afraid. And he's going to go as far as he possibly can. It's a rear puncture as well, which takes slightly longer to change. And they're rolling with it and still off the front, as if to prove a point. Maestri wearing that King of the Mountains jersey, but we believe it may well be handed over to Danilo Celano. That's going to be a proper battle tomorrow. I expect them both to be busy early morning, because we head towards a climb quite early in tomorrow's stage as well, Brian. Much shorter tomorrow, 166k.
That's what we like. We like a battle in the competition, so we definitely have a battle in the King of the Mountains competition. So the red jersey will move over to Celano. He won the first category climb of the day, and because they're locked in points now, it'll mean that Celano has won a first category climb, and he'll take that jersey. But there's still a couple of days to battle for that, and I'm sure we'll see a battle between both of those teams.
Really, Triestina may well have faded on that climb. Were they just saving themselves? Here they come. Bottom of your screen, that's Manuel Belletti. Actually, he's done well to stay here. Yonder Godoy is nearest to him, with Danny Martinez of Colombia close at hand as well. Impressed with Belletti's efforts, actually, and he's bringing them back up right now, as you can see. There is the Colombian just bedded in. It's Yonder Godoy, by the way, nearest to him, and then Daniel Martinez. There they are in the scarlet yellow sleeves here, scarlet and yellow sleeves. Ulissi is always going to draw the attention, no surprise there. But likewise, Bora are going to work hard. Maestro, Celano and Tonelli, it was 3, 2 and 1 points in that King of the Mountains competition, confirmation of that. There is Mühlberger, the Austrian champion. He's part of the Bora team, and there comes Shane Archbold, the bullet mullet.
The flying mullet.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I think the bullet mullet works better, but you stick with what you want.
Well, he calls himself the flying mullet.
I know he does, because he doesn't like bullet mullet, but because it makes him sound like he's bald on top with a bit of a mullet. That's a bullet. Well, somebody said it's not called a bullet, it's called a skullet. Anyway, the last throw of the dice for an interesting hairstyle if you're thin on top, I should think. They will be thin on top as well. This is going to thin out, Brian, just to
it will do very quickly. As soon as we hit the entrance to the ancient city of Ephesus and swing left, I think that's when the difference will be made. A lot of these riders know that their job will be done as soon as we hit the bottom of this climb, and we'll have 10, 12 riders will battle it out for the stage positions.
We're coming into the Kamlik Railway Museum area. If ever you're in the locale, sure, go to Ephesus, but give the Railway Museum a look as well. It's got some ancient steam trains that actually came in here under their own power from 1866 onwards, and then they just parked up. It's absolutely spectacular. Just under 13 k's to go, and it's getting very lively. Look at the teams trying to get into colour order. This is about support, and indeed offering some up. Jesper Hansen and Andre Zeitz, the chosen sons for Astana in their familiar pale blue. Interesting is that Sam Bennett is still here. That's a remarkable ride by Sam. Well, he's had a tough old call today, but nonetheless he's answered it, at least for the time being. I don't think he's going to be able to offer up much assistance to his teammates, however, I'm afraid. And I think he may well fade on this last incline. This is no laughing matter either, with 12.4 to go. We've still got the descent, by the way. This is that other side of the lip of the bowl that we were telling you that they go into, over this, and then they have a descent, so faster roads really, as opposed to a full-on descent. And then our climb, 5.4 kilometres in length, but the last 3 really are most punishing. Sailing by as we start to grind up. We will be passing Ephesus fairly soon. You'll see the bars and souvenir shops on the opposite side of the road. Ephesus itself, by the way, will be on the right-hand side of the riders. So as you look at it now, to the left-hand side of your screen, obviously they're coming towards you. 12 Ks remaining then, but yeah, they won't spare a moment to look at it, I'm afraid. But this is your descent. This is where the pace comes back in. This is where you put some power back in your legs. This is where you prepare yourself, Brian, for hell.
Yeah, this is quite a fast descent now. They're on big wide roads, and you can just see CCC coming up in the orange. UAE still with Vegard Steglengen, the Norwegian, at the front, big tall figure. But yeah, everybody will be trying to battle for that left-hand corner for a little bit of a position as they start heading towards the final climb of the day.
Magnificent. They work not only limestone but marble in these parts. So it's been a zone for the hardy, I think, for many years. CCC Sprandi, no surprise to see them on the front, just testing everybody. They like doing this. Jonas Koch will go as deep as he possibly can. We'll see whether they have any others that are going to enthrall us today. But they've always reminded us of their presence. They're easy to spot, of course, CCC Sprandi Polkovici. And right now they're getting busy, but unfortunately for them, so are plenty of others. Jason Pantano, haven't really dwelt too much on him, just saying that he's moderately fatigued and must be after what's been a busy season. But he's the sort of rider, he did so much on the welter, why could he not do that again, many of you are saying, and I agree with you. Some of the spoil here from just dampening the road, as you can see in the shadow, from where they wash out some of the limestone here, so a little bit of moisture for them to deal with. Nothing too serious, just a sort of a dampish road, but they'll be back and into the sunshine before you know it, and then heading up. Gazprom looked lively today. Trek likewise for Pantano. Gazprom for Fursanov. Sergei Fursanov, what about him, Brian? We said he's been quiet for a while. Will he go loud today?
Well, they lost their sprinter Alexander Posev, so they've really got nothing to fight about apart from trying to look after the likes of Fursanov for this one, and I think they're expecting a big performance from him. We'll have to wait and see, but a lot of teams are here without any out-and-out sprinter, so they'll be thinking of this is their big opportunity today. Because you never know what's going to happen over the next couple of days. You know that Sam Bennett is here, the fastest sprinter in the field, and he's feeling good. So it's going to be very difficult to get anything out this race, and that's why a lot of pressure is being heaped on some of the riders' shoulders now.
Gosh, there's a real pace about them. This will bounce into our next climb when the ticker says, well, in about 3 kilometres time, actually. 5.3, 5.4 kilometres from home. Good work, some from Sterling work here today, and Everett Tones is still very much involved. The green jersey, which he's nursing on behalf of Sam Bennett, who owns that, is still here. They're wrestling with it. We're largely intact as we come to our big test, Brian.
Yes, we'll be turning left in about, I would say, just maybe about 1.5 kilometres time. Koledan from Trek, Segafredo at the front. They've been doing a lot of riding so far. They haven't done much today, but they're coming up late now. Pantano was on the wheel of Edward Toynes, but like many of the climbers, they don't like the kind of pushing and shoving, find it difficult to stay near the front. It comes more natural to some of the the bulkier, the bigger riders, but for some of these climbers, they can sometimes get pushed out of position, and that's why it's important to have your teammates there to be able to help you. And you can also see that still Mikko Maestri up there in the Red King of the Mountains jersey, trying to get a good position, but I think he's working for one of his other teammates, including Zardini. Yep,
I think you're absolutely right. Edoardo Zardini, big Italian presence in this race, both Bardiani and Androni. There's a smattering of Italians elsewhere, including Danilo Celano, who's we believe is now leading the King of the Mountains competition. Look at this approach. They're not hanging around at all.
Left on.
Big one. 6.4. We're not quite there climbing just yet, but right inside the road, best place to be. Dive bombing up the inside. By the way, yesterday Sam Bennett apologised to his own teammate Shane Archibald for dive bombing him in a corner and knocking him out of the sprint yesterday. Luckily they had others to lean on, and Gregor Muhlberger did a lot of work yesterday. So they're returning the favour for him. Bora Hansgrohe, the Austrian champion, is not that badly positioned at all. Good road this. Of course it takes you up to a phenomenal tourist area, and here go Villiers Triestina, just starting to light it up and think about it. Yonder Godoy looks very, very lively, and I think it's the Venezuelan today that they're going to be working for. There he is in second place of his little line of 2. Arm flicks out, well maybe not. Come on, do some work, he says. Gosh, you're never that far away from history here, are you, Brian? It's mind-blowing.
Selçuk Castle.
Yep.
It's just down the road. If we hadn't turned left there, we'd have headed here, but we did turn left, and we're starting to head to the ancient city of Ephesus, which will be on the right-hand side very shortly.
Yes, ancient has many meanings all over the place, but frankly, here you're reminded of it so often because of just so many ruins of the past, making the past visible. Sam Bennett's still in here, you know, he's just doing a fantastic job of staying with it. I'm actually beginning to wonder whether he can't hold on, just come home. If he can come home in under 50 seconds down on the day's winner, then he might well believe he's got a chance of winning this entire thing with victory in Izmir if it's to go that way. In Istanbul, he'd have to work very hard, and right now the work rate is being done by Bardiani. First little tester, Brian.
Yeah, this is what they've been setting up for all day. They put a rider in the breakaway, and they attacked in the final yesterday with Zardini, and trying to attack now, but Androni in the red coming up towards the front, and many of these riders know that within the next kilometre their job will be done, and this peloton will drop down to about probably 15-20 riders.
It's interesting, Muhlberger's looking so lively, but he's on the shoulders not of his teammates but of anybody else. Bora on the other side of the road, along with Astana making a move likewise. And here they come. Well, this is great. Zeitz and Jesper Hansen involved. Gosh, it's been a busy old time of things. So impressed with Sam Bennett.
Yes, he's riding well. He's looking to try and stay as far to the front as possible. He knows that, you know, I think at the back of the mind that if he does win the next 2 stages, he could be doing well in the general classification. But I think he will lose quite a bit of time. But he's certainly having a good go, and up there in the top 10 so far.
Yep, good effort. 4.4 kilometres then. It's starting to bite, Brian. More than a nibble fairly soon. Look how strung out it is.
Yeah, he's just moved to the left now, and I think it's all over for Sam Bennett. I think he knows it's going to be a little bit too difficult now. Because Astana have taken it on, and it's still to rear up. It kind of drags up here, and this pretty much is the start of the climb now. From now to the finishing line, the next 4 kilometres just gets steeper and steeper.
Certainly does. I don't think that was a statue to the Virgin Mary, but her final resting place is where we are heading to today. Yes, one of these Christian shrines that draw so many. 4.1 kilometres then, that's all. It's getting busy, Brian, and this is where the cream rises to the top. I'm just looking further back down here, and Jelson Pantano is still very much involved today. What about Darwin Atapuma from Team UAE? If it's not going to be Ulissi, he's going to be surely on nursing duties, I'd have thought.
Yeah, and it's definitely not going to be First today. It's First now being dropped, but it's all in one line now as the tempo is really high. Ulissi right up there towards the front. Also Zeitz for Astana sitting second place. And there's the race leader as he pulled the pin just at the bottom of the steepest part.
Good lad, a great effort by Sam Bennett. I imagine he's going to gather himself maybe to win another stage in Istanbul, which is a fantastic city to do that job. Well, the Turkish national team were always going to have a dig here. They know it very, very well. Wouldn't be surprised to see that if this was Ahmet Orkun, who can take on a few little inclines just to show himself at the face. He's of the peloton here today. He's on the move. Next year, I think it's Israeli Cycling Academy. I'll remind myself a little bit later on. They've got a tailwind. This is going to assist a few. 3.5 kilometres to go. Well, it's starting to wake up, right?
Yeah, it's starting to get harder, and it gets harder all the way towards the top. Leopold Koenig now comes towards the front of the race, and there seems to be a bit of a stall. That was a fast run into the bottom of this climb, and a few attacks. Nobody really wanting to take control of this race at the moment because they know that it gets steeper and steeper all the way up this climb.
Looking ahead of the race a moment, and there is Leopold Koenig, who looked very second-hand. That coming out is Darwin Atapuma, I believe. He's just starting to grind in. We'll have a look in a few moments' time as we hook back. But if it is Ulissi, he's going to have to do it all on his own. But we've seen that before. It's the way that Adam Yates won it. You just got to grind into this incline and take it at your own pace, particularly later on, Brian, when we hit 10% and more. Yeah,
you can just see the front of the peloton now. Ulissi now setting the tempo at the front. He's taking a few riders with him, so he doesn't want the Androni rider to distance out everybody else. And but he's got company. Ulissi is his first go at this one, but he's got some. He's not going full gas at the moment, but that was a testing effort there from Ulissi.
Yeah, it certainly was. Just looking a little bit further back as well, Aslanov's been going well. Just looking just trying to pick out Mühlberger for you as well.
Koenig goes again. Yeah, Vendrame just in front, hanging on there. So Vendrame is the Androni rider in the red, but Leopold Koenig just coming up to his wheel very shortly.
Yonder Godoy, the Venezuelan, and Martinez are still very much there, sort of eyeballing with Ulissi. Mühlberger is the pale jersey, just riding on the line just for the time being, so the Austrian champion is there, and they're softening everyone up, giving him some options to bridge over to. This is good work by Bora, who've been the dominant force in this race.
Yes, they are. Leopold Koenig has done a lot of work for Sam Bennett in the past, given his opportunity here. This is what he loves, but it's Atapuma now at the front for UAE with Ulissi on the wheel. Tempo still high, but Leopold Koenig and Vendrame still have a very slender advantage.
Well, Vendrame more of a quick man than a climber. Atapuma, with his familiar rocking style, is rocking into this incline. We saw him further down the mountain getting busy. Diego Ulissi used him as a foil, and it's going to happen yet again. He's called him back on duty, essentially. And there is the Colombian working for the Italian so very well from Team Arab Emirates. Well, we said that Vendrame was more of a sprinter than a climber, and he's just gone pop. And here we are. Ulissi's been released by Atapuma, and away he goes. He's got company, though, and Martinez is not going to go that far. Godoy, I beg your pardon, has stayed with him. This is Godoy. Andre Zeitz also in the frame, and there's Mühlberger. Gosh, Martinez trying to get back in, but Godoy, the Venezuelan, looks the fresher off them, and there he is, centre line at the moment in that scarlet, gold and black. Checks over shoulder by Ulissi. He says, this is supposed to be my game. What are you guys doing here? It's my ball. I'm going to play with it. Well, we shall see. Martinez is there, but so is Godoy, who checks over his shoulder. And UAE are absolutely playing with us at the moment. Is that surely not Niemiec who's gone off? 2.2 to go. Here we go. It's time to dig.
Yeah, there's only a few left now. Niemiec now comes to the front for UAE, and Wheeler Tristina still have Godoy and Martinez in there. Leopold Koenig and Mühlberger still hanging in there, but I think Mühlberger's starting to feel the pressure. Zeitz moves up for a stand on the right hand side, but yeah, this climb just gets steeper and steeper. If you've already made efforts, you're going to pay for it now.
Yep, indeed. There is Jesper Hansen doing a fantastic job. Andre Zeitz is behind him. They're the two men from Astana, intermingled, as you can see, with those from Wilier Triestina, Dan Martinez, and Yonder Godoy, the Venezuelan. Godoy, the bigger man. But this is a big mountain, a big test, and you've got to have a big heart to take it on. And Mühlberger refines himself here and just starts to grind his way back in. He looked done, but he's coming back, Brian.
Yeah, you can just see Pantano for Trek Segafredo kind of hanging on to the back of this very small group, but it's UAE all the way in this climb. They're starting to take control. They know that Ulissi is the faster finisher on this type of finish, but I think it's going to be about time. 10, 6 and 4 on the finish line, so the rider wins this stage. Will not only take the stage but take the overall leader's jersey, but only about a dozen riders left now at the front.
Yeah, it's getting thinner and thinner on the ground. Trek Segafredo starting to thin out. Good time. I'm just trying to see if Pantano is anywhere here. No, and that looks like that long season has finally bitten him. And in fact, there he is, just grinding, I'm afraid, but it's to dust in this kind of scenario. 1.7 kilometers only to go before we get to the top. It's about 9% at the moment. 9%. It doesn't get any nicer until you get to the very last few meters. 9 all the way before it becomes 10 for the last 300 meters or so, maybe a little less than that, but nonetheless. Every single percentage extra on the incline is going to have a cost, and we're down to 10. This is always going to be a battle of attrition, Brian. Who's going to be master of it? Ulissi looks strong for the moment.
He has looked strong in this climb. Gavazzi and Pantano have been distance. Leopold Koenig just moves to the back of the 10 riders now in front. And UAE still setting the tempo with Nimic on the front, but they've got both Godoy and Martinez of Wheeler Trestina just behind. You've got Zeitz and Jesper Hansen of Astana. And then you've got Milberg, but I think Milberg is kind of hanging on a little bit and may not feature in the top 3 today, but Ulissi still looks good.
Fausto Masnada, who's been going great in the Italian Classics, looks very, very strong. He's here for Androni, by the way, as a potential surprise for you today. Maybe top 5 at best, but especially in this elevated company, and that's what we've got at the moment. And it's time to mix it up, and why not? Well, Godoy and Martinez have been playing with just about everybody, and this is Godoy that's heading off the Venezuelan. He's distanced it. That's his teammate in 4th place at the moment, being forced to chase on are the others. And Fausto Masnada has edged himself into a decent position for Androni Zajdamek. He's been on great form in the Italian Classics, 9 of which have been crammed into a fortnight on the approach to this race. And it shows you what form can do, Brian. It can bring results and potential right now. Yeah,
10 becomes 5 now. Ulissi at the front, Godoy and Martinez. Masnada is there on the left-hand side for Androni in the red. Just kind of hanging on for Astana to back is Hansen. So these 5 riders with Masnada now taking up.
Yeah, Masnada goes, digs again. Well, form can mean class. And that's precisely what we're seeing at the moment. Fausto Masnada is digging in, and it's going to take a bit to quite an effort to get him back. He's hitting the toughest section right now, and Ulissi knows this. His teammate Godoy is at the back of that little chasing quartet that you've got at the moment. Jesper Hansen also here and dialing the clock back. Early exit from the Vuelta, but good in Norway. And Hansen it is that's going to pick this one up and starts to dig into it. He's got the belief. And now he's also got the bit between his teeth, and it looks like the Ulissi may well be left behind here. Fausto Masnada, great move by him, and Jesper Hansen sails through, and I think he's going to leave everyone in his wake. This is absolutely remarkable. Where's the response, Brian? That's what you've got to ask for. Maybe you just have to keep it calm, and that's experience for you, and Ulissi's got plenty of that.
Well, talking about experience, you just mentioned it there. Ulissi has it. He just has to stay here and use Vendrame, Masnada to his advantage, and now he's using his experience. He knows he has to stay with these front riders. If he stays with them and comes into the last couple of 100 metres, then Ulissi could be taking this win.
Hansen it is with Ulissi, just moves himself into a terrific position. Daniel Martinez, Ulissi and Martinez starting as the out-and-out favourites for today. Now then, what's he going to do as we pass by the Flamme Rouge here? What's he going to do with Jesper Hansen? He's going to rest up. And it's the first attack that goes from Daniel Martinez, the Colombian. Ulissi not tempted to go with him. Maybe he just can't. Stays seated, so keeps the drive where it needs to be. Meanwhile, Masnada just fading after that very, very early push, and they're starting to weave here. Nobody wants to offer any assistance to those behind, but the wind is a crosswind. It's coming in from their right-hand shoulder. Still they dig here. Absolutely phenomenal finale.
This is playing into Ulissi's hands. Ulissi is an explosive finisher, and Jesper Hansen and Martinez and now Masnada, they have to keep on attacking, because 300 metres ago, as Ulissi puts it in the big chain ring, it looks as if he is going to be taking the leader's jersey in the win today. Just
picking it up ever so gently. Ulissi goes for it, changes the tempo, and then he imposes it, and it gets higher and higher and higher. Masnada's been blown out the back door here, I'm afraid. Martinez is staying with, just trying to think that he maybe get a good position. Jesper Hansen wants more than that, but he goes to the other side of the road, but time's running out for absolutely everybody, and Diego Ulissi is going to bury them all, I'm afraid. Crests it here. Finally the road eases with just about 50 metres remaining, and he comes to the finish line as expected. Started as favourite and rode like one. Absolutely brilliant. Very, very good work. Super to see Jesper Hansen back to approaching his best as well. Brave effort by Martinez, who kept it all honest. And Fausto Masnada, surprising a few, but he's been on such great form in the Italian Classics. No surprise to us. Yonder Godoy crosses the line in 5th place. Well, he had to dig deep there, Diego Ulissi. He'll take over the lead of this race, and I don't think anyone is going to be capable of taking that jersey off his back, because the gaps here today are big.
That was a strong win in the end. I'm not going to say that it was easy for him, because it's hard for everybody. His team rode well today. They put him in the best position, but just when they started easing off in the last few hundred metres, it was playing into the hands of Ulissi. He's very explosive in these type of finishes, and when he gets within sight of the finish, he's very explosive. And you know, these climber types of Martinez and Jesper Hansen had to keep the tempo, had to take it to him, but unfortunately they couldn't get rid of the man on the right hand side there, and with a finish like that, there was only going to be one winner.
Afraid so. We saw Panzano come across the line, looking very, very second-hand a short while ago. Brave efforts today by Bardiani. They did a lot of the early chasing. Caio Ral had designs on Celano. Willia Triestina, well, Danny Martinez got a good finish for them, but it wasn't victory. That, of course, went to UAE Emirates, Diego Ulissi. Well won, well delivered. And indeed, it looks like our champion in waiting. Such are the gaps. Look at that, down to Niemiec, who was, that's 34 seconds. His teammate who led him so well. Ulissi takes it ahead of Hansen and Daniel Martinez. Masnada 4th ahead of Godoy. Aslanov, it was indeed for Gazprom, ahead of Gavazzi. Mühlberger, who faded towards the end, 32 seconds down. Niemiec and Zeitz. Wow, I can't say any of them will have enjoyed it, but this man will have liked it better than most. He's got the victory he was looking for, and this is how it finished, right?
Yes, so they were playing into Ulissi's hands at the moment. Everybody was finding it difficult at this moment because of the explosive finish of Ulissi. If only they had maybe tried to attack him, keep on riding as hard as they can, but I think all of them were on their last legs, and when they got into the last couple of hundred metres here, you can just see Masnada coming back to them with this type of finish, just looking at it from the helicopter shot. As soon as he put it in the big ring, nice and easy, just looks around and he just rides away from them. These climbers are not as explosive as a rider like Ulissi, and all they were going to do is fight for 2nd and 3rd position, but taking nothing away from the other riders. Still a good performance, but Ulissi is world class at this type of finish.
Well, those remarkable 10-metre markers that brought him to the line here just underscored the gap in effectiveness on a climb such as this. Suited him absolutely perfectly. He'd have looked at the terrain, saw this and thought, that's where I'm going to win this race. He's been biding his time, keeping himself in sensible positions, and right now he is the leader of this race, and a worthy one, Brian.
Yeah, very much so. Right from day one, when he took a 2-second bonus, he's been thinking of the overall victory. And when Jesper Hansen went, he put Ulissi under pressure. Ulissi was going from wheel to wheel, trying to get help from other riders, and Ulissi knew that he only had to stay with the climbers, the pure climbers, and if he stayed with them inside the last few hundred metres, then with that explosive finish he's got, he was going to win. So just a pity Jesper Hansen couldn't keep that going, but easier said than done. He obviously tried his hardest, and it wasn't as good as Ulissi on the day.
Not quite, but great to see Jesper Hansen back and towards his best. That's what it feels like to be the best of the rest. Nice cooling towel upon your shoulders. But what might have been. Looking strong, he had a good Norway, and after his early exit from the Vuelta, we're pleased to see him back, the Great Dane, in good shape. So are we for the next 2 days, and trust you'll be joining us on our run to Izmir. That'll be one for the breakaway, surely tomorrow now, Brian, eh?
You think with the big gaps now, Ed Towns done a good job there. He finished within, I think, a couple of minutes of the winner there, so he climbed a bit better. So possibly with this climb towards the end of tomorrow's stage, maybe they might think about doing something tomorrow. It's a second category climb, so it could maybe be hard enough to maybe shake out the likes of Sam Bennett if Edward Toynes is climbing a little bit better. So it's going to be an interesting one. I think it'll be a bit more aggressive tomorrow.
There is our leader by a margin of 12 seconds, starting tomorrow's 5th stage of the 6. Jesper Hansen nearest to him in the general classification. Interesting to see Mühlberger within that top 10. He can go quickly. Might even be a breakaway candidate.